Let me tell you the story of where I started, how this show came about. I've known about Stella's story for a long time. I first came across Stella as a figure in our queer history, actually back in the dark days of the 1980s, but recently, about 3 years ago, she started tapping on my shoulder again and demanding to be heard. It's really an extraordinary story. It's one of those ones where you go, when you tell it to people for the first time, you have to keep reassuring them this did actually happen.
Yeah.
You know, back in 1868, there was this young queen called Ernest Bolton who was living as a lady of the night, Stella, and going out on the town in the West End of London, sometimes as a grand lady with a posh aristocratic boyfriend, and sometimes as a sex worker working on the Strand. And that she got arrested in 1870 and tried at the Old Bailey and fabulously got away with it. They couldn't pin anything on her. And then for me comes the really interesting bit of the story, that she, instead of, you would think in Victorian England, if you were outed as a cross-dresser and a homosexual and you were on the front pages of the newspapers, you'd have to run away and hide your head. Not a bit of it. She took the show on the road, worked in variety and music hall for the next 30 years, both in America, off-Broadway, and in this country. And it was that ability to take disaster and turn it into your act that really fascinated me. It seems the great transformation was not just from man to lady or man to trollop on some nights, but from a designated victim to being her own person. And that transformation has incredible resonance for me now. And
It's
I
a
think
human
that
story, you know, it's about overcoming adversity and making something that's horrific into something amazing, and using that tool that she had, which was her wits, her imagination, and her tenacity to kind of make it happen.
And that I really admired. I mean, yesterday by coincidence was World Trans Visibility Day, and I was reading a post from our mutual friend Vivi Bond,
yes,
in New York, and she was saying she looks forward to the day when people who've transformed, trans people of every denomination, will not just be tolerated but will be positively recognized for their particular quality of courage. And I think that's probably the subject of the show. It's not a show about dressing up or about gender fluidity, because those to me sound very arid. You know, that sounds like a Guardian editorial, not like a show. For me, her true denomination, her true gender was courage. This thing of picking your life up and inventing it and taking control of it, and that's what inspires me, and that's what I want to put the audience in the same room as, I think.
And you're going to do that by just having her on stage, talking directly to the audience and sharing her experiences, which hopefully they can relate to in some way and learn something from.
I describe the piece as being a one-man show for two bodies, because you actually meet Stella twice. You meet Stella once as her old self towards the end of her life, and then once as her young self when she's just setting out on her career of high glamour and disturbance. And yes, that's the show. Stella sits on a chair and talks about her life. I think that format relates to important moments in my own life when, as a young man, I was very lucky to meet some very beautiful and distinguished older queens who took a kind of fairy godmother role in my life. I think it's a thread in queer culture of the passing on.
Well, it's something that you know about and that you've studied, that you want other people to latch into and learn from, and see that this struggle, this conflict has been going on forever. But also that people have overcome it and become fabulous, beautiful creatures out of it as well.
Yeah, I really hope. Yeah, I really hope people get to enjoy meeting Stella and be inspired by her. I think that's I never think of, people say, what's the message of your show? I go, no, if you want a message, let me send you a telegram. It's an encounter.
Yes.
It's almost I hope it's a conversation with the audience.